Greetings, class. My name is Rudy Holland, and I'll be doing my presentation today over a disorder called cultural dysmia. I received my information from the Journal of Multicultural Counseling and Development. I chose this condition because it's rarely discussed, especially among African Americans. While this condition is not specified in our book readings, it does have a close correlation to PTSD and PDD, which stands for Persistent Depressive Disorder. You can find this information on page 236. Pretty much, cultural dysmia is a low-grade depression due to 250 years of slavery and discrimination. Some of the symptoms deal with low-grade depression, anger, hostility, learned helplessness, self-hatred, and low self-esteem. This article also tells people things that are in African-American lives that may, contribute to this disorder. Some things as far as discrimination in the workplace, family structure, high imprisonment rates, access to quality education, and the church. Pretty much with this information, it's a way for clinicians to be able to diagnose African Americans with using the social cultural aspects and social aspects of our lives. It says it was, this needed to correctly diagnose African Americans with mental illness, taking into consideration the injustice, racism, and inequality many of us have to face today. I believe this article is needed, especially for anybody going to the medical field, because as discussed before in other chapters, when it comes to African Americans and our social and social cultural upbringing, we are diagnosed with many ailments, and depression and anger and self-hatred is, a lot of them. And sometimes clinicians can diagnose us with something that's totally wrong if they don't take in consideration the things that we have to deal with every day as African Americans. As far as my critical engagement with this article, I pretty much agreed with everything they were saying. There were some things in there that I did not think was accurate when it was especially classified with African Americans. Some of the things it was saying that because many of us might be dealing with cultural dysmia, our eating habits might lead us to obesity, which may be possible. But as anyone know, living in America, we have one of the highest obesity rates among all races. And I'm not sure if that has anything to do with our mental biology or anything as far as a mental illness. I just think, as Americans, we have a problem with obesity. It doesn't have anything to do with us having any type of mental disorder. Also, there was things in the article that said because many African Americans have cultural dysmia, that we participate in increased sexual activity, as pretty much saying we're promiscuous and we, don't believe in protection and things like that. While this may be true as far as not using protection, statistics state across the board that also in America, between ages 18 and I believe 35, that it's pretty equal as far as, unprotected sex from the surveys that they taken. So I didn't agree with the article stating that because maybe many African Americans have cultural dysmia, that we participate in, risk-taking sexual activities. I believe that's across the board. But in all, I agreed with the assessment of this article, because it's very important for clinicians to understand the social and social cultural aspects of African Americans when trying to diagnose us with a mental disorder. You know, some things like depression, anxiety, things like that is pretty much has to do with our social and social cultural upbringing. It's nothing with our biological. We're not born this way, but through nature and nurture, we learn certain things and we have to adapt. And I believe this article was very important to allow clinicians, doctors, anybody who's trying to go in that field to understand that when you diagnose an African American with a disorder, please take in consideration, you know, the family, the social upbringing, and social cultural, which affects your physiological as well. Thank you. My name is Rudy Holland.